Technology makes things easier to use, enhances your experience of using them, and it makes life simpler. And that's what the TVS Apache RTR 310 was supposed to be. The key is to focus on the benefit of the technology rather than a manufacturer's ability to deploy technology. This and other issues reduce the RTR 310 to an average motorcycle that shows glimpses of greatness. Adding tech and layers of features has created a range of 6 RTRs to choose from. And honestly, seeing clear growth in benefits as you climb that ladder is a little bit difficult. Our advice is to go for the base model or splurge on the very next model, the one with the quick shifter. The rest aren't worth the money. If you follow our advice, you'll bring home a motorcycle that has instant acceleration whenever you open that throttle. It has excellent suspension on city and open roads, and it manages bad roads pretty well. You will smile at how competent, confident, and responsive the chassis feels, and honestly, the RTR is a good little motorcycle. What you'll grow to dislike is how loud the RTR is and how buzzy it's become in this latest edition, and all of this tech, it does not make the RTR easier to like. Some of the stuff like the screen UI UX is amateur hour, and some of the others is just appallingly bad, like that heated and cooled seat. At least the price sets the expectation correctly. It's as out of place as a 310 in a 400cc market should be. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The best part about the 310s, right from the start, has been the chassis and now this excellent suspension setup. You're going to find this motorcycle responsive, trustworthy, and completely predictable, and therefore, I think you're going to love it. TVS hasn't told us clearly whether the new tire import rules will allow them to continue offering Road 5s on these RTRs, but while it lasts, this is about the best street tire of all today, and the chassis exploits both the grip and the feedback fully. This is freaking awesome. On the road, on the brakes, and in the corners. This combines really well with the new riding position too. It's a slightly sporty riding position with a taller handlebar, a comfortable seat, and you're going to feel comfortable, connected, and ready to take on the world. And I love this aspect of the RTR 310. The dark side of that moon is refinement. The 310s weren't smooth to start with, and TVS worked to make them acceptable. This RTR 310 is a flying leap backwards. Power and torque are up, economy is decent, but unfortunately, the buzz is back. The handlebar in your hands, it's always going to buzz, and with revs, other parts of the motorcycle will join the fun. They combine really badly with how loud the bike is, which is another 310 trait, and together, this is a poor rider experience. Out on the highway, for example, the constant noise and buzz, it made it impossible to enjoy the ride, although there's no lack of performance for cruising or overtaking. The only upside here is that economy goes up slightly, and you can expect mid-30s economy if you ride calmly, less if you ride faster. This TVS also has 5 riding modes, and I'd suggest you take a pinch of salt with that. What it actually has is 2 engine maps, 3 ABS maps, and 2 traction control maps, and the 5 modes are a permutation combination exercise. For most of you, 90% of the time, sport mode is what you need. The other 10% of the time, rain mode. The other 3 modes, I didn't find them very useful. But when you realize that this engine comes from a 10-year-old project, that it was first sold to public 7 years ago, the update seems delayed and even underwhelming. Which is a crying shame because the lowered gearing is actually helpful despite its contribution to the lack of refinement. You can ride at low revs in high gear and then whack the throttle open and find instant acceleration to pass things. That combines really well with the comfortable seating position and the excellent suspension setup. This is a really good city bike, it just lacks the refinement. The 310 does produce some heat on your legs, and we've said this before. Bigger, faster engines, they produce heat, you're going to feel some of it, and how much you can accept is a choice you will make. The lower you set that bar, the smaller your motorcycles must be. The RTR says TVS wants to be seen as the maker of cool and high-tech motorcycles, but it's going about it without thinking of the rider's benefit. All of this tech, it doesn't improve the 310 experience, just feels unfinished. But let's start at the top. The quick shifter is about the best in class, and if you'd like to splurge and get one, I'd be happy for you. Similarly, cruise control is standard, useful, and excellent. All I'd like to see changed is the main switch, which is not tactile enough. But TVS does a very pointless interaction here where you have to touch the brake or the clutch to confirm that you'd like to use cruise control every single time you start the motorcycle up. And that's just a completely pointless interaction. For the record, when I switch on cruise control using a switch that cannot be confused with anything else, nor does it do anything else, I know what I'm doing. I'm an adult, and I know that because I have a driver's license. TVS also has traction control, and honestly, I didn't trigger it often enough to tell you if it's good or bad. But in my opinion, silent backup systems like ABS and traction control, they are always good to have. Most of the rest of the features raise questions, not benefits. And the worst of them by far is the heated and cooled seat. It's a clever idea, but what it produces is the most acute pain I've had from a motorcycle seat in the whole of the last decade. And worse, even on a hot day after the first 5 minutes, you can't tell whether it's cooling or not. Do not pay. I repeat, do not pay for any variant that has the heated and cooled seat. It's a waste of your money. The RTR has one of the best LED headlights I have tested. It's much brighter than the person who thought that saving the maximum light output for a faster speed was a good idea. And therefore, the only optional thing to really think about perhaps is the adjustable suspension. And perhaps because this is already an excellent stock setup and the RTR 310 is not inexpensive. So spend that money only if you're absolutely sure you will use it to fine-tune the ride further. This design baffles me. We've gone from the clean, crisp lines of the RR310 to this busy, complicated thing. It's got presence, and honestly, I don't like it. And if you do, you're welcome to it. From the swing-arm-mounted tail section to the slashes in the belly pan and this incredible headlight fairing, I think there's just way too much going on. Too many details, too many finishes, and too many colors. What I'm relieved to find is that it maintains the high quality level we expect from TVS. I am going to call this messy, but I cannot call it badly made. And that epithet I must reserve for the graphics on the TFT screen. That's good design about as much as a 6-year-old plus a box of crayons equals published artist. What's it like to live with? We should warn you right at the start that TVS service gets a lot of stick in our comments, and it happens so often that we think you should factor that friction straight into your purchase. If you do bring one home, service is 6 months apart, 5,000 kilometers apart, and there's an oil change every single time. The standard warranty is 2 years, 30,000 kilometers, and there's an extension of 3 years and 20,000 kilometers. It sounds complicated because that's how it's written in the user manual. And if you're buying an RTR 310, I think it's worth making sure that this additional extension, it's still free. And remember, sort of like Bajaj, TVS also offers warranties only to the original purchaser of the motorcycle in case you're buying one used. If you plan to buy the TVS Apache RTR 310, the variant to go for is the base model, or splurge 15,000 rupees more and get that excellent quick shifter. But remember, the pricing is odd. The more powerful Bajaj Pulsar NS 400Z, 70,000 rupees less. The more comfortable and faster Triumph Speed 400, 25,000 rupees less. If you do add all of the options up and get that RTR, now the Himalayan is less expensive, and at the same price as the RTR, you could get the 2024 390 Duke, which has more performance, is more capable, and since you like odd styling, the Duke has it too. You know, I don't think the real issue is that TVS is freestyling this motorcycle too much. At the start, the 310s sat in a world of 250s and didn't sell well because of optimistic pricing and vibration. And today, this 310 sits amongst the 400s and it'll probably do poorly because of optimistic pricing and vibration. I believe this is a core problem of the TVS BMW project. These motorcycles from the start in India and globally have never done great sales numbers. I think TVS and BMW need to sit down and have a solid rethink, and this time TVS needs to teach BMW how a great mid-displacement single is actually built. Because the 310 game is not going to get easier. Not until they make a 450 or something. Having the biggest, sharpest new machete, it only makes sense until you realize that everyone else now has a submachine gun.